What's good, folks? My name is Easy and you're watching Easy Storytelling. Today I invite you back into the dark kingdom of Ingloria, known only as Gloomshire. This is all part of a medieval fantasy setting of my creation, Ballad of a Broken Kingdom. Now the video you're watching is chapter 2 of a series where I basically go over the Shadowdark games that I've been running for my friends around the table and encapsulate them in an immersive storytelling experience where we can go over everything that happened, including the player interactions, much like you were at the game yourself. So first off, I want to say thank you so much for all the love and support on the last video. It honestly was like so touching to see. It was my most viewed storytelling video ever. So many comments, so many likes, so many people telling me the voices were great and they found it so immersive. Kelsey Dion, the creator of Shadowdark, even commented and subscribed. And Kelsey, if you're watching this, I appreciate you big time. You've created something that has just inspired me so much to bring this creativity out and create this world space in this series, and hopefully a Kickstarter campaign setting for Shadowdark in the future. We're one step closer, folks, and it really means a lot. Thank you so much. Before we get into this one, I wanted to mention on doing player character voices. So I'm going to start picking up doing a little bit more character voices or player character voices in this chapter, but they're just small quips and important lines. I would like to leave, most the character voicing to my players around the table because they do it best. It's their characters. I don't want to butcher their own storytelling. And as well, not only does it, not butcher their storytelling, but it also allows me to not have to do as much writing, which is just like off the top of my head, because quite a lot of the time it won't be the actual words they said because I don't get all of those words down in the post-adventure reports. So you'll hear a little bit of character voices this game, but not many, as I said, just small things and serious sort of one-liners. And there's one more thing I want to say, which was we have 2 extra players in this game. One of them only made it for this game, and the other one stayed for the rest of the campaign so far. So stay tuned for them, and I'm sure you'll know which characters they are. Last we left off, Lady Stephanie Lyca of Greatwill Manor sent our party on a noble mission to find her missing son Joseph. After investigating his whereabouts, they surmised him to have ventured to a Versan ruin of the Third Age just outside of Greatwill. At its entrance, they had a strange encounter with a group of crawlers led by a sinisterly mad fair called Pius, who was most bothered at missing his chance to sell the noble boy's blood. After he beat them at dice, 3 gold was paid for entry into the ruin. Inside, Joseph was found half dead and guarded by a grotesque pale spider that enveloped Nixie. After a tense battle, the beast was slain, and Albin's torch set its nest alight. Here we find our companions in the corridor of this ancient place. Joseph opened his eyes for the first time in God knows how long, witnessing the broad silhouette of Albin backlit by the bright flash of burning webs that was quickly smothered by the cold moonlight shining through the chamber's cracked dome ceiling, where the monster once weaved its cradle. In quick succession, 2 bodies fell from the disintegrating nest. Their lifeless forms crunched as they impacted a grand cylindrical device below. One poor sod now lying slumped over top, with his bare rear lit by Luna's gaze like laundry left out past sundown. Before they investigated further, Joseph was untangled by William as Nixie sucked the venom out from his own arm. Stone and Albin stared into the chamber where bodies began falling forward from the outer walls, no longer supported by the many threads. With a weak voice, Joseph said, "I was seeking a helmet when it got me. You haven't found one, perchance?" They asked him what helmet he spoke of. "A Versan cavalry helm from the Third Age. Hooked ears, tall, purple plume." They told him not to worry about it, and to save his energy for the journey home. Entering the circular chamber with weapons drawn, the air still simmered with curling smoke as they looked up at the curved ceiling, which had ornate carvings depicting celestial maps of stars and sky spheres swirling in intricate detail. Taking a closer look at the two bodies that fell, they discovered they were part of Pius's crew from a map fragment and a note on the shortcomings of a previous heist. Albin took a nice pair of thieves' tools in a gold box with a crow on it and traded them with Nixie for more supplies. Checking one of the bodies' necks, William looked upon a gold amulet that depicted a falling star. He slipped it into his pocket without anyone noticing. Their rifling was interrupted by the dull murmurs and coughing of a body laid on the floor behind them. Nixie leapt on top of its chest and went to drive a blade into its eye as the stocky figure flipped the Niken on its back, instead trading a deep gash across its woven face. The beast folk, sitting hunched over Nixie with its tight palm gripping his face, demanded the party stand down lest he crush their companion's skull. They told him he was outnumbered, no chance he'd make it out alive if he wasn't to free him. He smirked, with blood rolling down his sharp grin, tightening his grip as an elegant voice behind them made himself known. A tall fair in a long robe that held a charged spell ready to unleash an unknown energy. In this moment, with conflict either side and a wounded Joseph still led in the corridor, Albin, Stone and William decided to mediate the best they could. A conversation unravelled, albeit tense, discovering that they were simply travellers exploring the ruin and got ambushed by the spider, sedated and were believed to be its next meal. The beast folk was called Scabba and the fair Axidor. They all came to a peace agreement, considering the blood already shed and the task at hand. Scabba was not pleased with the outcome due to his cut face, but relinquished the Niken, the two snarling at each other as Nixie scuttled back. They all took more supplies from the surrounding deceased before looking down the two unexplored corridors at either side. One was clogged with rubble, the other a dark staircase leading into another chamber. Most of those present were ready to depart. However, Nixie and Stone wanted to find that supposed helmet for poor Joseph who'd come so far with nothing to show for it. The others remained with him. Albin even fed him a potion that got his spirits up. Through more discussion, the two parties alleviated tensions, getting to know each other, with Joseph interjecting every so often. "You're a fair, come from the land of Ver. Did you know this place is one to gaze upon the stars, in life and death?" They asked the boy what he meant, but Axidor quickly stated, "You know this is no mere observatory, but a crypt also." And suddenly, they heard the raspy squeals of Nixie and the deep shouts of Stone echoing up the steps. After hearing this, the whole group aside from William and Joseph delved into the lower crypt, finding Nixie with his arm deep in one of the 6 sarcophagi embedded in the walls. Stone was attempting to pull his limb out as he screamed in pain. His shoulder popped from its socket as it was ripped free, leaving his arm limp as Albin jumped forward, plunging his torch into the open gap, setting this undead entity ablaze, ending the struggle. A few moments of panting relief went by as Albin pushed the lid further ajar, feasting his eyes upon a long-dead Versan soldier now burnt to a crisp. It was adorned in fine armour, with a helmet at its side that had dull metallic oranges partially masked by a layer of black soot. It matched Joseph's description, however the flames had sadly left it plumeless. He took the helmet, marvelling at it in the smoky, torchlit room as Nixie writhed in pain on the floor. As he stared into the finely crafted headpiece, rubbing it free from soot. The newly acquainted fair, Axidor, told him to leave it, and that desecrating his ancestors' graves wasn't going to sit right with him. The debate began to get heated, with Axidor levying grave magical threats as Albin's torch began to dim and went out, plunging the tomb into darkness. Quick DM note. This is just a key situation which was created from Shadowdark's awesome torch system, which I mentioned in the last one, where you set a timer for an hour. Once the timer goes off, torch goes out. And that's why I went out. And it led to this insane sequence. Albin made a break for it, tumbling into those on the stairs but managing to slip free, darting up to the cold light and reaching a startled William and Joseph. Joseph's shock turned to awe. "You found one! You found one!" Albin didn't even mutter a word as he took off down the first corridor, pulling the chain that began opening the large circular door, giving a moment for the others to almost catch him as he leapt through the barely open gap, dashing past the statues of old, but his escape was stopped at the entrance to the ruin. The others looked up the stairway, wondering why he'd halted. Stepping out, the moonlight poured down through the outer archway, casting stark beams into his eyes like spotlights. Then he heard crying. But not of despair, of glee, pleasure, laughter from the silhouette of a tall, slender figure. It was Pius, with his ears catching the light like curved blades, mouth jumping wide. Behind him, his companions emerged like phantoms cloaked in shadow. "Well, well, well, you've certainly had some fun down there. We heard all the clatter, and yet you look like you've come out richer for it." He stepped closer, the light glinting off his flowing white hair as the sharp point of his rapier revealed itself inches from Albin's face. As the rest of the original party stepped into view, Joseph clutching William's leg. "Oh, if it isn't Joseph, young Joseph, boss of the world. You all look rather terrible, I might say. So, what's it going to be? Our fair share of noble blood, or all the blood that lies before me?" Albin said, "What about the helmet? You want the helmet, lad." "Old helmet over a noble child's blood? You must have left your brain in Skarkenfell. Or is it being smothered in all that brawn?" "You best listen to him, boys, and hand over the young pup," said one of the Lepkins at his side. Albin looked back at the tired group, nervously, and then called out for help. "Help! Help!" What a pity! As Pius took a step closer, thirsting for bloodshed, the tension was broken by the snap of twigs, followed by the clank of armour. From the shrouded underbrush, a figure emerged. Michael, the lady's guard, his sword drawn as he glared at the fair. "If you're done harassing the ladies, men, you best be moving along." "You think an extra blade will scare us off? My, this is oh so riveting." Then Scabber and Axidor pushed through the group. "How about 3 extra blades?" Pius pointed his rapier at Scabbard's gashed face You, sir, look like you've been playing with one too many blades as well. Then to Axidor, subtly flicking it in the shape of his ears. Turning on your own kind, are we? Ah, oh, isn't this a funny day? Huh. Fine, I've got no love for coin that comes with this much baggage, but let's not pretend this is goodbye, my friends. I'm sure we'll meet again. His smile slowly dropped as he stepped back and slinked away with his posse at his side. The two Lepkin bickering as they left.
Oh, we could have taken them. We could have taken them.
Quiet, the brutish woman said to them. After a long breath, Albin turned around, looked down, and gave the helmet to Joseph, saying to Axidor, "The capstone needed no more. Let the boy have it." Axidor, although clearly disgruntled, squashed the conflict and ruffled Joseph's head. "Oh, wow. That was, frightening. But this is amazing. Thank you. Both of you. All of you. And you, Michael." Michael walked up the mound. "So, chaps, well done. That was a close one. And there's that little rascal. Michael, you always were my favourite." "Ah, thanks, lad. Maybe you'll get your mother to give me back my pay then." "I only jest. That's up to you guys." The group laughed and agreed, quickly realising they needed to rest through the night. So they decided to use the embers, which were pretty much still going, and was certainly better than starting a new fire out in the dangerous woodland around them. The wood crackled as they settled down under the stars and broke into rations of dried meats, bread, and nuts. After much conversation, they arranged their watch duties and hit the hay. On the first watch, the chill of night deepened as William noticed a pale glow coming from the forest. Out of the silent woods sung a low chant. Slowly, spectral figures that seemed to fade in and out revealed themselves. A procession of robed verse and mourners moved toward the crypt, carrying a coffin draped in ancient silk. Their faces were gaunt and blank, their steps deliberate as they rose the bank toward the party. Startled, William woke the rest quickly and quietly as they all crept away from their bedrolls. Some moved further away than others. Axidor, particularly intrigued, watched the obscurities while he was nestled on the bank as they marched through the camp, snuffing the campfire instantly as they continued unfazed deep into the ruins. Everyone was fairly shaken up, aside from Joseph, who was stunned in sheer amazement. Regardless, Axidor believed them not to be a threat, and assured them it was likely safe now. So after waiting to see if they'd come out, which they didn't, they headed back to sleep, hoping to get at least 2 winks of shut-eye. Sadly for them, another disturbance awoke the camp, including Stone, asleep on his watch. A screech they heard as they looked over to Nixie's bedroll, where he was seen clutching his bleeding face as Scabber chucked the dagger that drew the blood on the ground. Its shine reflected the fire's dying embers until the dark fluid lining its edge streaked the blade. He raised his hands. "An eye for an eye." Everyone was fairly tense, exhausted, and fed up. They still barely knew Nixie, even less Scabber, but most believe it was kind of fair game. They insisted on no more bloodshed and made sure to comfort Joseph before having the two at each other's throats go on watch together. And so, after gathering some more wood, separately of course, they sat on either side of the fire, staring at each other across dancing flames. With much tension in the air, the night went by with little sleep, and as the morning dew brought them out of their slumbers, it felt nice to finally see the sun again, even if it was shrouded by grey. They got ready and hit the road towards Greatwell. The journey felt quick after what they'd been through. Joseph was carried most of the way on Stone's back, and as they approached the town, the bells tolled solemnly, their sound carrying through the streets. Townsfolk seemed to be gathered in hushed reverence, kneeling before the cobbled roads as a procession of riders approached. The dark clouds above parted in their wake as the glory of Sol cleared their path. At the head of the retinue was a figure clad in gleaming dark armour, adorned in a khaki tabard featuring the holy symbol of true hospitality, a sun's shining rays post-eclipse. His hair long and black, his face cold and noble, peering down from atop his mighty steed. Behind him, 10 riders chanted hymn in unison, their voices rising like a funeral dirge. As he passed, flowers were thrown at his feet, their petals crushed beneath the hooves of his steed. Joseph was ecstatic. "A herald in town! Blessed be the saint-bound. I do hope it's Godwin." And that's where we'll end Chapter 2. Thank you so much for watching, folks. It has been a pleasure retelling Chapter 2. One of my favorite chapters, potentially. And, Jesus Christ, do they get even more crazy from here on out? Who is this enigmatic figure that seems like a god walking among men? Stay tuned for Chapter 3, folks. A Herald's Call, where we'll start off with a little lore dive into the Saint-bound heralds. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that jazz. Hit the bell icon to stay notified. Check out the streams. And much love, folks. Join the Discord too if you want to talk about world building. I'll see you in the next one.